Welcome to Success Fundamentals. I'm your host, Dennis Postuma, and today is a very special day. We have Heather Monahan on the show. She's a TEDx speaker. She's a top 50 keynote speaker in the world 2022. Her podcast is a top 100 business podcast and your best-selling author ×2. Heather, thank you for coming to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So just for those of you who don't know, Heather has a book out, her second book, Overcome Your Villains. And if I just want to suggest you check that out, because if you love the first book, this is just going to go through a step-by-step process. It's really helpful for me, and I love the confidence it's helped me. So again, thank you, Heather. So first of all, what does success mean to you?
Oh my gosh, success is different at different times in your life, right? When I remember being younger, success looked like winning the games or being named the MVP. And then when I was out of school and I graduated, success was about the paycheck or about the title in corporate, right? And then when I became a mother, success became about how well my child is developing and thriving, right? So I guess now that I look back, over the last 47 years and I think collectively about my life, success really is about being willing to change the target, change, who you are, evolve as a person. And now at this point in my life, success is about impacting and helping and inspiring others to reach their potential. Success is about finding joy in the day-to-day things. Success is about optimizing myself, innovating myself, growing and being open to new things and new experiences. And of course, that same with my son and spending the time with him and the people that are special in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you would share the story about how proud you were of your son when he got hurt and through over the summer, and talk about that, because I think it's very important for leadership. We lead as example, and sometimes we don't get to know, how that actually works. Can we share that for everybody?
Yeah, that's so crazy. It feels like so long ago. So my son had a really hard time during COVID, he's very a social guy and did not like being isolated, did not do well in school that year, which was a new thing for him. So he had to go away to academic camp. My son is an athlete and he was miserable about this idea,
Sure.
right? So in his mind, he was having to forego summer to be at a nerdy academic camp so he could pass his grade. And so it was not fun when he was packing to go, everything was a nightmare. Nothing's gonna fit in this bag. I have too much, he just, the way he was approaching everything was so negative. I totally understood, but I knew it was my job to lead him, that I needed to see things differently, right? So I'd say, okay, let's take a step back from the suitcase. Let's unzip this side. And look, it popped up and we have more space. He couldn't even see that because he was so in, when you're just in the negative moment, right? You can't even see, he was in it, right? In this anger. And so I was helping him try to see, okay, let's step back and see a different perspective. And so he left okay. He still was not great, but he says, okay, I'm going to go, I'm going to get this done. And he goes, and every night they get their phone for 10 minutes. They're living outdoors in a tent. I mean, my son lives in a high rise in South Beach on the ocean, right? So this is the hardest he's ever had it in his life in many regards, right? And he was not happy. He gets his cell phone for 10 minutes a day and he calls me every night on the verge of tears. I'm miserable here. There's bugs that sleep in the tent with me. I have to kill it. And I am not even doing it justice. He was not happy. It was cold, rainy. He was in New Hampshire. And so, I'm like, hang in there. You're doing a great job, whatever. And then I get a phone call one night and they said, oh, sorry to inform you, your son's in the emergency room. He's had an accident and we believe has a broken arm. And I'm freaking out as, a single mother out here in Miami. He's in New Hampshire. I can't get to him right away. I knew it was going to take a couple of days for me to get there. Literally, you can't just fly into Logan and be there. Then you have to rent a car and you have to drive like 5 hours. It was impossible. It was in the middle of nowhere. So anyways, a couple of days later, I get out there and I'm at the hotel getting ready to go get him. And he has a broken arm. I knew at that point. And I'm thinking, okay, he's going to be totally packed up and we're just going to get out of there. And this is just a complete waste of a summer. He's going to have to repeat the grade disaster. He's a broken arm of all things. I mean, this is just a nightmare. And I hadn't seen him in almost a month, and how I left him, he was so negative. And I pulled up and he was just standing there with his broken arm, not with his bags, nothing.
Right.
And I jumped out of the car and I ran over to him and I was so grateful to see that he was okay. And I said, where's all your stuff? And he said, what do you need? And I said, well, aren't you leaving with me now? And he said, no, mom. And he said, come on, let's go to the hotel. Let's get some dinner and we'll talk. And he was so composed and he was so fine and at peace. And it was such a bizarre feeling because I was the one now
Sure.
petrified for his well being. And we get back to the hotel and sit down for dinner. And he says, listen, mom, here's the thing. I didn't have any idea how hard this thing was going to be. And yes, it has been a complete struggle and it has not been easy, but I didn't come this far to come this far. I taught myself how to write with my other hand. I taught myself how to eat with the other hand. I taught myself how to dress with one arm. I taught myself how to shower. They're still having me work in the kitchen because the kids had to do different jobs,
Yeah.
as part of the team. He said, I'm still doing the working and I can do the sweeping with one arm and someone helps me. Everything he described was the opposite and antithesis of what he had the excuse to leave, but instead he chose to see it from the perspective of, yeah, I could give up and walk away right now and I've just wasted the last 3 weeks of my life, or I can dig in, I can find a way and I can make this work. And not only did he make it work, I'm so proud of him. His last week writing with the wrong arm, with a broken arm, he won an award for English award, Writer of the Week award. And he ended up doing incredibly well at that academic camp that summer. And when he came home, he was so incredibly proud of himself. His confidence was off the charts. And he started down this whole new road of healthy eating, which here we are a year later. And my son is now the healthiest kid in the world. But when he went out there, he was eating junk food and pizza. And it's been such a life-changing, incredible experience for him and just a shocking one for me. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what a proud moment, like that validation that, wait, some of the things I'm actually doing rubbed off, and that's amazing. And it's so funny how life works out to where those things fall into place. You looking back on your careers and everything like that, and then something like this. That's and an athlete as well. That's I know what that's like to struggle in high school because you do the minimum just to be able to play the sports, right? So that's your mentality, like thinking there's nothing after that. I always thought I was going to be in the NBA, and that didn't work. I'm 5'11", and it just didn't work. Let's just put it that way. So I get that 100%. So what are some of the most, like, what would you say the biggest fundamental for success is, or the top three for you in your life?
Fundamentals in business or in life in general?
Either success fundamentals. So whichever you feel more passionate about sharing.
Well, I want to share in business because I think too many people just chalk up that there's luck or someone was born a certain way. And I am a firm believer because I've walked the walk and been through it. That's not the case. So to me, you can turn any negative into positive, like my son chose to do in this really challenging situation this summer, or that I chose to do with getting fired, right? You can take what looks to be like that, like a pig with lipstick on it, and you can actually flip it into being this beautiful thing if you are willing to put the work in to do it. So I think perspective is a big deal, and perspective not only comes from yourself, but the people you surround yourself with. And you and I have talked about this before. It's so important that you curate and are intentional about who you allow into your circle, not just who you're hanging out with, but who you're seeking advice from, who you're having lunch, like what media you're consuming. Knowledge is so powerful and so impactful. So, it's really important to be aware of who you're letting into your world, because that's one of the biggest things that can affect you in for success in business or life. And then the other thing is not sexy is work ethic, right? People will always say to me, and I read a book, actually a friend of mine wrote a book, The Audacity to Be Queen, which is a great book. And it's all about receiving and being open to receive and allow people to do things for you. I love the book and I had a lot to learn from it, but I still wouldn't give up my work ethic, right? And she says to me sometimes, you work too hard, Heather. And I say, do I? I don't know. To me, if you like what you're doing, right? If you get joy out of, and you're doing something good and you're helping others, and that is what life is about. So I don't know. I like that idea of being willing to receive and ask for help. And that's something I've learned as I've grown. And I think that's a powerful lesson for people. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Strong people ask for help. Raise your hand and say, I need a hand over here. And don't try to just cover something up and find a way around it. Right. So it is good to ask for help, but that work ethic, even though it's not sexy, even though people are going to give you a hard time about it, that can really take you to that next level. And it certainly has for me.
Yeah, I take work ethic over talent any day. That's for sure. Yeah. And the thing about mentioning like hanging around the right people, the thing about that is we live in an age where, you know, even if you don't know them, you can follow them, you can watch YouTube videos, you can listen to the podcast, you can be around. My workout gym is full of old programs. This is back when you'd actually get the physical program for everything. You could hang out with all those people while you're working out. So now, of course, they have podcasts and things like that, you know. But when I was younger, they didn't. That's you bought the program. So if you had one sentence that you could tell your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, one sentence. That's so I need
It can be
more.
long. It could be a run-on. Your editor's not here, so it can be a run-on.
Sentence. HarperCollins leadership is not going to like that. Okay, so I guess, oh my gosh, that poor little girl, you know, I was so scared. I did not believe in myself. I had no idea what was ahead of me. I had no idea of what I was capable of, right? I was the biggest thing standing in my way from greatness and success and all of it. So I guess the thing that I would say to her now is to just believe in you, believe in your intuition, believe in your big freaking ideas. Don't believe what anyone else has to say. You know, once when I was younger, I would let some of those negative thoughts come in, like, you can't make it to the top. That's for men, not for women. And I would think, oh, they're right. You know what? They're right. I probably should shelve this idea. And I'd shelve the idea for a while. Granted, I'd take it off the shelf years later, but had I run forward with the big ideas that I had when I was younger and believed it was possible for me, because truly what you believe is what you will create, it's what you will do. Until I just decided to clear that runway of everybody else's thoughts and BS and problems and obstacles and just laser focus on me and what I want to do, that wasn't that those moments when I got really clear on me and tune everybody else out, those are the takeoff moments, right? Like firing that lady from my life. Get rid of the negative people, get rid of the negative noise, listen to you and go all in on you, double down on you. You have all the answers within you.
I love it. That's awesome. Very, very powerful advice to yourself. I like it.
Very long run-on sentence.
Hey, that's what we have editors for, right? We got to make our books legible. So that's exactly, yeah. I won't go into grammar with myself. So you probably already noticed it from my emails. So I thank you so much, Heather, for being on the show. How can people get a hold of you?
I'm at Heather Monahan, all social media, and you can check out my website, heathermonahan.com.
And check out the podcast too. There's always knowledge on there that's very useful. Thank you so much, Heather, for being on the show. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.